All right, let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts, because right now they are standing at a massive crossroads. Every single move their front office makes this offseason, it's not just an isolated decision. No, it's the first domino in a line that's going to snake across their entire roster and pretty much define their chances for the next few years. In this explainer, we're going to break down this incredibly high-stakes situation facing General Manager Chris Ballard, where one single choice could be the difference between a real playoff push and hitting the reset button all over again. Welcome to NFL Nexus.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the big picture, the entire offseason puzzle the Colts are trying to solve. Then, we're going to zoom in on what is arguably the most important piece of that puzzle, the dilemma surrounding Michael Pittman Jr. After that, we'll see how that one decision sends ripples directly into their quarterback room, which, as you know, is everything. And finally, we'll connect all the dots and watch that chain reaction play out. Okay, so to really get what the Colts are up against, you can't think of their offseason like a shopping list. It's more like one of those 1,000-piece puzzles where every single piece has to fit perfectly with the ones around it. In the NFL, you can't just go out and get whoever you want, right? You're playing within this really rigid financial system, the salary cap, and that's where the real chess match begins.
What the Colts front office is staring at is a textbook domino effect. A single decision, like what to do with the key veteran like wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr., it's going to trigger a massive chain reaction. And I'm not being dramatic here. It's going to impact their salary cap, sure, but that then dictates their ability to sign their franchise quarterback, fill holes on defense, you name it. The money from one move literally determines what's even possible with the rest of the team.
So you look at this number, almost $36 million in cap space, and you might think, hey, that's a pretty good chunk of change. And on the surface, it is. But, and this is a huge but, that number is incredibly deceiving. For anyone who doesn't follow the nitty-gritty of NFL contracts, the salary cap is this hard ceiling on what you can spend. And that $36 million? It's going to vanish. I mean, it'll disappear so fast because you have your own key players you need to re-sign, you have holes you need to plug in free agency, you have to save money for your draft class. Suddenly, that number looks a whole lot smaller, which makes every single dollar count. So that brings us to the first and I think most critical domino in the whole line. The one that could kick this whole thing off, veteran wideout Michael Pittman Jr. His situation, man, it is the perfect example of this brutal conflict that every single NFL team has to deal with. It's that classic battle between loyalty to a guy who's been there and done it for you versus the cold, hard numbers on a spreadsheet. This decision isn't just about one player. It really tells you a lot about the entire philosophy of the organization. For years now, Michael Pittman Jr. has been Mr. Reliable for the Colts. It didn't matter who was throwing him the ball, and believe me, there's been a few. He was a consistent and productive target. But this is the tough question the front office has to ask themselves now. Last year, he had 80 catches, almost 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. Good numbers, right? But is that production still worth the massive contract he's on? It's that age-old dilemma. Are you paying for what he's done in the past, or what you think he can still do in the future? And this right here, this chart just lays out the conflict perfectly. On the left, you've got that solid, dependable production, the kind of numbers you absolutely need from a number 1 or number 2 receiver. But on the right, woof, you've got a massive $29 million cap hit. Now, a cap hit is just the amount of a player's contract that counts against your team's total spending limit for the year. And a number that big, for a guy who isn't your quarterback, can absolutely cripple your ability to build out a deep, well-rounded roster. It's a huge chunk of your budget for one guy.
Now check this out. If they were to release Pittman, they would free up a jaw-dropping $24 million in cap space. Let's be clear, that isn't just a little extra spending money. That is a franchise-altering amount of cash. To put that into perspective for you, with $24 million, you could go out and sign a Pro Bowl-level player at another position, maybe a top cornerback and a quality starting lineman, or you could use that money to make a very, very competitive offer to keep your own franchise quarterback happy. It's a move that would totally reshape their entire offseason plan.
But, you know, it's never just about the money. General Manager Chris Ballard came out and publicly backed his guy. He made it crystal clear that he values Pittman not just as a player, but as a leader on that locker room. And that adds this really deep human element to what is otherwise a tough business decision. This kind of public support, it complicates things, right? It shows loyalty, which players see, but it can also affect your leverage in negotiations. It sends a message to the entire team about how you treat your veterans.
And that potential $24 million we just talked about, well, it becomes a complete and total game changer when we shift our focus to the most important and, let's be honest, the most expensive position on the field, the quarterback. The money you could potentially save in the receiver room could be funneled directly into securing the long-term future of your quarterback room.
So the Colts have a really interesting situation at quarterback. Priority number one is locking down their starter, Daniel Jones, with a new contract before he hits free agency. But at the exact same time, they have to figure out what the plan is for their former first-round pick, Anthony Richardson Sr. This is a guy with just immense physical talent, but he's been sidelined by injuries, which creates this huge cloud of uncertainty around his future with the team. It's a tricky balancing act.
Think about it. With Daniel Jones coming back from a pretty significant injury himself, and with all the question marks surrounding Anthony Richardson's long-term health, the Colts absolutely 100% need a rock-solid backup plan. They need insurance. Given their history at the position lately, they know better than anyone that one bad hit on your starting QB can completely derail an entire season. So for them, a quality number 2 quarterback isn't a luxury, it's an absolute necessity.
And this need for a stable backup plan has led to some really interesting chatter. Some insiders around the league have floated the idea that the Colts could make a move for former Dolphins QB Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, the guy has 120 career touchdowns. He would immediately bring a proven, high-level veteran presence. And honestly, it's not that crazy of an idea. With a new coach and some serious salary cap pressure down in Miami, it's actually pretty plausible that he could become available either through a trade or a release. He'd be a fascinating high-upside insurance policy for Indianapolis.
Okay, so now it's time to connect all these dots that we've laid out. We're about to see just how one single decision, what to do about Michael Pittman Jr., sets off this massive chain reaction that is going to define not just one position, but the entire direction of the Colts offseason, and really their chances in the season to come.
So the path forward for the Colts isn't a bunch of separate choices they can just make whenever. No, it's a very clear sequence. It all has to start with that first domino, the Michael Pittman Jr. decision. The financial outcome of that choice directly determines the budget they have to play with for their starting quarterback. And only then can they figure out what to do with their backup situation, and then finally, they can see how much money is left over to fill all the other holes on the roster. It has to happen in that order. That $24 million, that's the key that unlocks everything else. It makes re-signing your starter Daniel Jones a much easier, much more manageable negotiation. It gives you the financial breathing room you need to figure out Anthony Richardson's situation without being forced into a corner. And it even makes the idea of bringing in a high-caliber veteran like Tua Tagovailoa a realistic possibility, either as an elite backup or even to compete for the starting job. So it's this incredibly complex puzzle, right? You've got loyalty pulling you one way and finances pulling you another. Proven production versus future flexibility. It's truly one of the toughest spots a general manager can be in. So I want to know what you would do. If you're in the GM chair, what's your first move? Do you stand by the veteran receiver, or do you make that tough business call to unlock your financial future? Let us know your entire game plan down in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, do us a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe to NFL Nexus for more deep dives just like this one. To help support the channel, please check out our amazing NFL-themed coloring books. They're perfect for kids and adults alike. You can find the link in the description or just scan the QR code on your screen right now. Thanks so much for watching.